Good afternoon, everyone. It is Saturday here. Welcome to my little Detailing Yoda channel, where I try and help you with your detailing and your detailing business. In this video, I'm going to answer some of the question and answers from the Instagram that I put up yesterday. And more than answer some, I'm going to expand on some. A lot of them I answered just in the story at the time. What I want to do though is expand on a couple. There's one topic that was too big to talk about, which was the main one, which was paint hardness. And the second one was just a bit on cleaning, pad cleaning, that is. So the big stuff that I want to talk about really is this paint hardness thing. So the thing about paint hardness, I think I'm going to title this, paint hard. I've seen this stuff everywhere and I need to address it. So paint hardness is just something you have to be really careful with, and I want to try and educate you a little bit on why that's the case and why you should never really get too caught into assuming all this stuff about paint hardness. So the first thing to note is, let me think how we're going to phrase this. So the question that came up on the question and answer last night was, how can I tell if paint is soft or hard? So that's an easy one to answer actually. So if you get the classic 10-year-old German paint, 10-year-old BMW, Audi, Mercedes, that sort of stuff, what we would call generally hard paint, we would call it hard paint because if we use a very aggressive pad and polish on there, so a rotary with wool and a heavy cut compound, or a DA with microfiber and a heavy cut compound, what you'll see is the machine itself will leave its own marks. So you should remove the defect that you're trying to remove, but what will be left in its place is a machine-induced mark. So if the paint is softer, so typically a Japanese paint or an Asian paint, but more increasingly any paint, so even the middle paints like a Range Rover or a Land Rover or a Porsche, or any of those type paints, if you're leaving your own mark from the machine you're using, so like a pigtail mark if it's a free spinning DA, or like a weird sort of spiderwebby mark if you're using a forced rotation machine, or just the classic hologram from a rotary, if it holograms really heavily, then that paint you could say is softer. Whereas if you're leaving less of a mark after you've done a solvent wipe down, the paint is harder. Now, where I have a problem with this and where I would like you to think about this stuff is in, there's a lot of these charts floating about, aren't there, where people have listed the manufacturers and listed the paint hardness. Which is all right, I suppose, but the trouble is that then leads people to assume, oh, I've just bought a 10-year-old Audi, therefore it's got hard paint, therefore I need to smash hell into it. There's 2 or 3 reasons why that might not be the case. The first one being, a 10-year-old anything will have had some paint. It's very rare it won't. Even if the guy you bought it off says, oh, it's never had any paint and this and that, well, 5%, give or take, of cars that I see that are brand new have had paint. Unless you've got the eye for it, unless you've got a paint depth tester, if the paint's been done well, it's very difficult to see if the car's had paint or not. So, and what that means is, if it's had aftermarket paint, all bets are off. It could be ridiculously hard, it could be ridiculously soft. And the other thing that's different is, you know, my big thing on this point is, yes, we can talk about paint hardness and everything else, but what we can't talk about is defect depth. There are some very, very expensive gauges, believe it or not, that will measure defect depth. But generally, just by looking at a defect, you can't tell how deep it is. And conversely, if a paint is harder, then the defect might be shallower. If a soft paint, weirdly, to turn it on its head, a soft paint could need more cutting because it's more easily marked, so the defects are deeper. Does that make sense? So you can't assume all paint on any car more than, you know, a Porsche, every time it goes through a Porsche dealer, has a front end repaint. that paint will behave differently and have different defects. If it was painted 3 months ago, then it might have really shallow defects in it, where the rest of the car was new 10 years ago and has got 10-year-old defects in. So you just can't assume anything about paint softness, paint hardness, or defect types, which means that you just always need to do a test section. And then, this is a big subject because it then ties into paint depth measurement. So you should have a paint depth measurer. You don't really need one of the crazy, all singing, all dancing, multi-layer £2,000 ones, but you need even a basic 50 quid one that will tell you, crucially, 2 things. One, if you go across a panel gap and the paint depth doubles, it's not the same paint. So you need to do a new test spot, because what worked on the one paint depth is not going to work on the other one. And crucially, it will tell you whether it's a go or a no-go. So with experience, you should realise what depth of paint is normal. And then, 10-year-old paint measures somewhere between 100 and 120 microns. That's all changed now. Go and read up on the new Mazda paint system depths. Some of the new Mazdas and new Japanese cars and stuff like that are reading like 60 microns. But it doesn't mean they're not polishable, actually, because they've still got like 30 microns of clear coat. So all these subjects are linked: paint depth, paint hardness, how to polish. But really, without wanting to scare you too much, just do a test spot. Just do a test spot with a light pad and polish. Does it remove the defects that you want to remove, or crucially, that your customer is paying you to remove? If it doesn't, then you need to do that pad and polish combination again and again until you remove those defects. Or you can go with a heavier cut pad or polish, or a combination of pad and polish. They may put their own marks in, which may mean you need a second lighter stage to get those marks out. Hopefully that answers that question a bit more. Secondly, just on pad cleaning, I have used pads before that have been machine washed, so I only ever use Rupes pads. I'm not a complete slave to Rupes, although I train for them and I'm an authorised trainer for Rupes. I do use other people's pads, I do use other people's polishes, especially if I'm coating. I will use that coating manufacturer's polish because it's been built to coat on top of, i.e. it's much easier to clean back to bare paint. So Kamikaze Collection polishes I use a lot, Guion polishes I use quite a lot. I've used quite a lot of different polishes. But I pretty much always use a Rupes pad because it's open cell, and I just, especially that yellow pad, which is the main one I use. If I need to cut heavier than yellow, I'll use microfiber. That yellow pad is amazing, but I always just clean with air. If you can clean with air, even if you're working out of a van and you're mobile, just get one of those small little 50-litre compressors, use that. It just is revolutionary. I don't recommend cleaning with water and washing and all that because it changes the pad structure and it changes the firmness of the pads. Again, big subject. Ask me some more questions if you want on this stuff and I'll try and help out. Yeah, I'm going to cap this off. We're at 8.5 minutes already, so I'm going to cap this off here. Hope this is helpful. Hope David Does Detailing, that has answered your question a little bit more on how to tell if paint is hard. Ask me another question if it's not. Loving the question and answer session, guys. I just want to help. Without going too much off topic, I had a chat with a guy yesterday who'd paid £1,000 for a 2-day training course and had come away feeling like he'd not really learned a lot and it wasn't a lot of use to him. So I'm putting all this stuff out there. I don't care who you go to get trained. You can come to me, you can come to a load of other people. I've got a very busy detailing business that pays the wages and pays my bills very well. Unfortunately, there are people, especially in the environment we're in now, that are just training because they need to make ends meet. They're not great trainers, and they're charging a lot of ridiculous money for it. So I'm trying to put a lot of this information out there so that I would like to think I'm a qualified source. I'm Rupes authorised. I'm PVD, Professional Detailers and Valeters. I'm one of their approved trainers. I was the first IDA RT, so recognised trainer in the UK. I've done a lot of training. I don't know everything about everything, but I know what works for me, and I'm not putting bad advice out there, and I'm not ripping people off for training. There are people out there that are, though. So as with anything, be aware if you're thinking about getting some training done, because I heard an awful story yesterday about someone who'd had some training, and I'm just trying to help you guys avoid, being that guy weighing out a lot of money and not getting a lot back. So hope you're enjoying the channel. Please give us a like and a share and a subscribe. Share to your pals, share to your friends. I think when I hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel, I'm going to do a giveaway. I think I'll do a post on it, but I think we're going to do like some free training, a free one-to-one session for when we get to 1,000 subs. So share and subscribe away, and then hopefully everyone who's subscribed by then will be in with a shout of winning some tuition. So hope you're all good, hope you're enjoying lockdown and staying safe, and working on those skills. Take it steady. Go and check out some other channels, some other videos on this channel. Cheers guys.